Welcome to the Next News Network. Between the headlines, it is Friday. That's right. We've got lots of news we're going to get to today. And we've got our White House rundown and all the happening around the nation, especially out of the Oval Office. Big developments we're going to be getting into. So before we do, just want to welcome you to this live stream on X, Next News, as well as YouTube and Rumble and Kick and Trump Daily Posts. Brian, are we good? No, you got to unmute yourself. Okay, here we go. All right. Good afternoon. I'm Gary Franchi, Next News Network Chief White House Correspondent, bringing you the latest White House news from the past 24 hours in partnership with our streaming partner, Trump Daily Posts. And now the pace from the Trump White House is clear: accountability on fraud, lowering prescription drug costs for American families, continued border enforcement under the Secure America Act, and fresh presidential movement on a possible agreement with Iran. The biggest White House development in this window, it centers on the Trump administration's anti-fraud push. The White House messaging today highlights Vice President JD Vance referring Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison to the Department of Justice over what the administration describes as a major taxpayer fraud failure in Minnesota. The administration's position is direct. Walz and Ellison allowed fraud to run rampant, with an estimated $30 million in federal child nutrition funds lost and $9 billion in Medicaid-related funds said to be lost under that watch. The White House also points to Vice President Vance's anti-fraud task force uncovering at least $22 billion in fraudulent small business loans, $6.3 billion in suspected fraudulent government contracts from the Biden era, $1.3 billion in fraudulent Medicaid reimbursements, and $60 million in student aid diverted to fraudsters. The administration's bottom line is that President Trump and Vice President Vance are moving aggressively to root out waste, fraud, and abuse. The second major development is economic relief for patients. White House-aligned messaging says prescription drug prices have now fallen for the third straight month under President Trump's policies, with a 0.9% drop in May and nearly 2.4% decline since February. The administration's highlighting Trump RX expanded access to generics, lower Medicare drug pricing, and payment reforms designed to cut costs for seniors and families. The message from the White House is that President Trump is delivering concrete savings where Americans feel it most. The White House is also continuing implementation of the Secure America Act signed earlier this week. The administration says new resources and funding are continuing to move to ICE, Border Patrol, and enforcement operations, while illegal crossings remain at record lows. The broader theme from the White House today is results across fraud enforcement, affordability, and border security. And from the Pool Report, President Trump said in an Oval Office question and answer session Thursday that an agreement with Iran could be signed soon, possibly over the weekend. The president said that Supreme Leader has approved it and that Iran has committed not to develop or acquire nuclear weapons, and that the memorandum of understanding would be good for the United States, the Middle East, and Iran. He also said that Bill Pluti would remain acting DNI. However, Truth Social posts have indicated that he is moving in another direction. In fuller remarks from that same Oval Office session, the president said the agreement is pending final documents and could be signed in Europe in the next few days. He said the stock market reacted positively, oil prices moved lower, and the strait would open officially once the agreement is signed. The president also said Vice President JD Vance, Steve Witkoff, and Jared Kushner would attend the signing. In an earlier Pool Report statement, the president said he'd spoken with leaders from Israel, Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and Kuwait with plans to speak to Turkey. He credited those relationships for helping move the agreement forward. The president also signed a fishing proclamation and discussed concerns raised by fishermen over regulations. According to the daily guidance, President Trump's Friday schedule is made up of closed press events at the White House, including executive time, a pre-taped podcast session in the Oval Office, signing time in the afternoon, and a pre-taped interview in the evening. The White House also indicates ongoing policy work behind the scenes as the administration continues its fraud crackdown and drug pricing push. So that is the White House rundown for the past 24 hours. The Trump administration focused on accountability, consumer relief, border enforcement, and high-level diplomacy, with a steady stream of closed-door policy work driving the agenda. And I'll be at the White House tomorrow, so keep your eyes posted for updates from the White House grounds.